Alright, so while I'm doing some water changes here, this is the 75-gallon flower horn tank. While I'm doing these water changes, I thought I would just go through and kind of show what a standard Sunday's worth of maintenance is in my fish room. So this is, of course, the 75. We've already gravel vacked about half the tank. I usually do half per week. And yeah, everything's good. The sponge filter just got cleaned last weekend, so I'm not going to bother with that. This is a 50% water change. Sometimes I do 25, sometimes I do 50. I tested the water this week and it was testing pretty high nitrate, so we're doing a 50%. Up here, I've got an AquaClear 110 with a clip-on light from PetSmart, I believe. And I've got some Lucky Bamboo. You can see this guy's not doing so hot. I have no idea why. These other plants are actually growing some new leaves. This was my feeble attempt at trying some, plants in this tank to reduce some nitrates. It's not going so great. I don't know if it's an issue with fertilizer or maybe it's just the flow of the filter. Maybe it's just the plants I chose, not sure. I don't really want to add ferts to this because the whole point is to draw out nitrate. So, not sure what's going on with that. Pothos would probably be a better choice. I just didn't really have a way to mount that, although I could probably put some shelving or something out there for it to go onto. But that's that tank. Over here, I've got just some fancy guppies. These are all kind of cobra variety. If you look, I got some females that are about ready to bust. There's a couple more of them back there. The plants in this tank aren't doing so hot. I've kind of got a weird situation with the lighting up here. This 30-inch Phoenix light is not enough to light these 320s. So I'm kind of trying to fix that. I don't really want to grow a ton of plants in this tank. I want it to be pretty low light. So I may just hang this light kind of from the ceiling because it's only, 2 or 3 feet there that I got to cover. So I might hang it like 12 inches above the tanks and see if that lights it up well enough. But there's the only male in the tank. Actually, the only plant that's doing any good in this tank is this Buse. That it's not thriving or anything, but it's doing better than that Anubias gold coin or anything else in here. So I do need to service the sponge filter. That's part of what's going to go on today. And I'm also going to remove a bunch of this duckweed and probably do about a 50% water change. Over here, kind of the same story. I've got some rainbow shiners. These guys I've had for about 5 months now, since the new year pretty much. Some of them are starting to get some decent color, although they're not showing off super great on camera here. Same deal on this tank. Plants aren't doing super great. Need to figure out that lighting. Sponge filter needs serviced. I gotta add the uplift tube back into this one. But yeah, I got a mega bladder snail up there doing great. And then over here, you can probably see some brine shrimp still in the water from this morning's feeding. I've got some neon blue platyfry. I just got these in from Aquavit this week. If we look, we can kind of see them there. These guys really show off best when the light hits them, so you can kind of see a little bit of blue on that guy back there. These are also really young, so the color's not coming in very well yet. But once we get the lighting in and they grow up and color up a little bit, those guys are going to look really nice. So that's the 320s. And then down here, on the bottom of this rack, I've got a pair of longfin mocha clownfish. This tank does not look good, I know that, but it's not supposed to. So I'm actually trying to breed these guys. I've never done clowns before. I've had some eggs, but I've never tried to rear their fry. I've had these for probably 8 months now, so they're doing pretty well for me. I'm having some trouble getting them to put on the weight that I want. And I really need to replace that sponge filter. That's the PetSmart branded that they just put out a couple years ago. No matter what I do, it stops up and clogs. So, air won't even go through. I've actually got that gang valve turned all the way up, and it just does not put out any air. And it's the sponge filter itself. It's something to do with the basket internally. But those guys are just doing their thing. Nothing too special about that tank yet. We come over here, we've got some rice fish fry in here somewhere. If we look kind of back here, you might be able to see a couple of them swimming up at the top. There's lots of baby brine and some vinegar eels in here right now. I probably won't do any maintenance to this tank. Where those fry are so tiny, I get kind of nervous about sucking those up. There's lots of poop, but chemically this water is pretty solid. I tested it. Nitrates are about 10, no ammonia, no nitrite. So we're just gonna leave this tank alone probably. I'm gonna move over. These are some golden white clouds. This tank is kind of murky. I had a bunch of Mopani driftwood in here for the longest time. I finally took it out because I got tired of all the tannins. But kind of the same deal with this tank as the ones up top. I got to remove a bunch of this duckweed. The plants are doing actually somewhat decent. You see some new leaves on the Anubias. I think if I can get that duckweed under control, we can actually get some decent plant growth in here. I'm using a 48-inch Phoenix Stingray to light all 4 of these 10 gallons, so it's actually decent light in the center of these tanks. I've also got some of these blue mystery snails eating on this green bean here. I've got a bunch of them. I've had them for long enough that some of these guys are actually starting to pass away, I assume from old age, so might need to get some more. Haven't really taken the time to breed them yet. And there's some orange shrimp in here too. So there's some orange neos. You might be able to see some in the plants. Those are another one. I really needed to put them in their own tank, and that just never happened. So maybe we'll get that done at some point. And the last tank on the rack here, this is the rice fish tank. I've only got 3 adults left, so these are the parents of those fry that we looked at a few minutes ago. And yeah, they're just chilling in here. I think I may only have 3 females left. Again, I had a random thing. A few of the males died. Don't really know what happened with them, but we did get that last batch of eggs, so don't know what happened there. We've got some Crips and some Anacharis that was doing pretty well in this tank. I just ripped that out when I transferred the last few eggs, but you know, doing pretty good. There are some blue neos in here, some blue shrimp, but I actually don't see them in there anywhere. But there's about 6 or 8 of those in there, so doing pretty good. So I think that about does it. The biggest project I've got right now that I really want to do is I'm trying to find a way to mount this Phoenix light to the bottom of this rack. So you see this steel beam here? I'm thinking maybe I can crisscross some zip ties or something, because the problem I'm running into, if I go and try to open up any of these lids, obviously they don't open. I could DIY some lids, but if I can just use what I already have and add a couple zip ties or something to the setup, that's going to make a lot of sense. And same thing up here. I got to find a place to put this air pump. This one air pump runs all 7 of these tanks. So I'm thinking maybe I can put like a shelf or something up here to run that air pump off of. And then this Stingray, maybe I can hang it like, you know, right here eye level. That way it kind of gently illuminates all 3 of these 20s. The rack itself is actually just a cobalt steel rack from Lowe's. So it was a couple $100. It wasn't super cheap, but it was easy enough to put together, and it does really well for this use case. Actually, I just put some 2x4s up underneath the tanks, and I've not had any problems. I'm actually wanting to put a 30-inch rack over here, kind of to the left. I've got a 20 long and a 37 tall. That would go pretty good there. And then down here, kind of waiting to be used, I've got a 33 long and a couple other tanks too. So I'm kind of hoping I can get all those used. I've considered putting another rack of 10s kind of right here where this 33 is. And you can see there I've got that drain line put in, so that potentially I can have tanks all through here. They overflow into what will eventually be more than a little pitcher. Let's say like a I don't know, a 5 or 10 gallon plastic trash can or something, with a sump pump that I can just run out the window, kind of like I've done here. That way, while water changes won't be automated by any length of the imagination, they'll be much simpler. I can just add water into these tanks until it overflows to the top, and we can get water changes done that way. For the saltwater tanks, I'll have to get like a brew trash can and mix up some water and pump it into the tanks, but I can still do that. I would just have to make sure to pump the water into the sink from the sump pump instead of out in the yard so it doesn't kill the grass. But that's it. Got a lot of work to do, so just thought I would do a little vlog instead of doing a big long text update. So hopefully that was at least somewhat enjoyable. Thanks. Okay, I thought I would chime in one more time before calling it quits for the day. So you can see I'm filling the tank back up, the 75 back up now. It's been about an hour since I started all this, so it only took an hour to do a 50% water change on this tank, to do a 50% water change on these two 20s and clean both sponge filters, and to do a 50% water change on these two tins and also clean both sponge filters. And this lid down here had some muck on it that I cleaned off. I did gravel vac these tanks over here, and I also, just for the purpose of this video, I did move the slide over here. I was hoping we could get a decent shot of these platies shining in the light, because these guys look amazing in pictures if you get the right picture, and they look really nice if you can get them in the right light in person. But that might just be something we have to kind of wait and see how they color up. But this is the second time I've ordered these fish, and I paid like $60 each time to have them shipped. So hopefully they do better for me this time. But if we move the slide back on over here a little bit, that's not really going to work. But you can see things have been done. Filters have been cleaned. There's no longer gravel and stuff on top of them. Things are doing okay. Down here, I added, I removed the pads on the Zis Airstone in this filter because they were getting really, really old. So it was barely pushing in the air. Fixed that. Also, where I did that water change, it's a little bit clearer, even though there's debris in the water now. You can see those orange shrimp I was talking about there earlier. And then I did kind of the same deal over here. I replaced the pads in that Airstone. You might be able to see one of the blue shrimp back there, and did a water change. So that's it. You know, I do that kind of maintenance once a week, and of course I'm not finished yet, but I'll probably be done by an hour and 15 minutes into all this, and that would be the majority of maintenance that I do every single week. There are times maybe when all the tanks come due at once for maintenance. When that happens, of course, I'm in here for longer, but for the most part, I'm able to get all this done pretty quickly on Sunday morning. Now, I did not do any maintenance on the saltwater tank, partially because I actually don't have time today. I've got to let the water mix for a few minutes, but also because the water tests okay. So where this tank does not have any coral or nothing super sensitive in it, it's just fish and I think like a hermit crab in there. There's really no sense in keeping the water to reef levels of pristine. Once they start laying eggs and stuff, it might make more sense, but you know, as of now, not so much. You can see one of those little fry in here. I think that's one of the older ones. He's about 3 or 4 days old now, but that's about it. So hopefully that was a better tour of what my Sunday looks like than a text post would be. So thank you guys for tuning in.